Welcome to the premiere episode of Body Count on Quaver TV, where we sink our teeth into the lethal legacies of cinema's most iconic killers. Today, we're starting with the granddaddy of all vampires, the Prince of Darkness himself, Count Dracula. From his literary origins to his numerous on-screen incarnations, Dracula has left a trail of bloodless bodies across popular culture for over a century. So, draw your curtains, grab your garlic, and join us as we tally up the victims of the world's most famous vampire. Before we dive into the bloody details, let's set the stage. Body Count is just one of the series we offer here on Quaver TV. While this show focuses on fictional killers from movies, franchises, and characters, we also have Real Body Count, which examines the grim tallies of actual serial killers, mass murders, and natural disasters. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom here. We've got other series like This Is Genius, where we break down the best lines or rhyme schemes in particular songs, and Red Count, where we tally up the destruction in movies and franchises. For those of you with a philosophical bent, check out Well That's Interesting, where we explore spiritual beliefs, theories, mysteries of the Bible, and the ancient world. And if you're curious about the lives behind the legends, our Interesting People series delves into the backgrounds of intriguing individuals, from actors and musicians to personal stories like that of my grandfather. But now, let's turn our attention to the count who really counts when it comes to fictional body counts, Dracula. Dracula's reign of terror began not on the silver screen, but in the pages of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel. Stoker's Dracula was a night-stalking, shape-shifting nobleman from Transylvania with a thirst for blood and a penchant for Gothic romance. In the novel, Dracula's confirmed kill count is relatively low, 3 to be exact, Lucy Westenra and 2 of Jonathan Harker's unnamed fellow prisoners. However, it's implied that Dracula has been feeding and killing for centuries, with countless unnamed victims falling prey to his bloodlust. The novel also introduces us to Dracula's brides, 3 female vampires who reside in his castle. While their exact body count is unclear, it's suggested that they've claimed numerous victims over the years, particularly children. This adds to Dracula's indirect body count, as he's responsible for creating these bloodthirsty brides. But it's in the world of cinema that Dracula's body count really starts to pile up. The first authorized film adaptation of Stoker's novel was Nosferatu in 1922, directed by F.W. Murnau. While the character's name was changed to Count Orlok due to copyright issues, this is undeniably a Dracula story. In the film, Orlok's victims include the crew of the ship he travels on and numerous townspeople, though many of these deaths occur off-screen. The film's most famous death is that of Ellen, the protagonist's wife, who sacrifices herself to destroy the vampire. The 1931 Universal Studios Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, set the template for many future portrayals of the character. Lugosi's Dracula is suave and sophisticated, but no less deadly. His on-screen body count includes Redfield, who becomes his thrall before dying, a flower girl, and Lucy, with several other deaths implied but not shown. This version of Dracula also introduces the now iconic death by wooden stake. Christopher Lee's portrayal of Dracula for Hammer Films, beginning with 1958's A Dracula, Horror of Dracula in the United States, significantly upped the on-screen body count. In this film alone, Dracula claims at least 5 on-screen victims, including his own bride. Lee's Dracula was more physically imposing and overtly sensual than previous incarnations, making his kills more visceral and impactful. Lee would go on to play Dracula in numerous sequels, each adding to the character's body count. In Dracula, Prince of Darkness 1966, the count claims at least 4 on-screen victims. Dracula has risen from the grave. 1968 sees him kill at least 3 people directly, with several other deaths caused indirectly. Taste the Blood of Dracula 1970 adds another 5 direct kills to his tally. As film standards changed, Dracula's on-screen kills became more graphic and numerous. In Count Dracula, directed by Jess Franco in 1970, Christopher Lee portrays a Dracula who's responsible for at least 8 on-screen deaths, with many more implied. The 1979 Dracula, starring Frank Langella, presents a more romantic take on the character, but still includes several notable kills. Langella's Dracula directly causes at least 4 deaths in the film, with several others implied. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula 1992, starring Gary Oldman, features one of the highest on-screen body counts for the character. In this version, we see Dracula as Vlad the Impaler in a prologue, where he's responsible for the deaths of thousands in battle. As a vampire, he directly kills at least 7 people on screen, with many more deaths implied or occurring off screen. In more recent adaptations, Dracula's body count has continued to grow. The 2004 film Van Helsing features a Dracula played by Richard Roxburgh, who not only kills several people on screen but is also responsible for the deaths caused by his numerous offspring. While the film takes significant liberties with the Dracula mythos, it certainly doesn't skimp on the body count. Dracula Untold 2014, starring Luke Evans, presents an origin story for the character. In this version, Dracula begins as a human warrior responsible for many deaths in battle before becoming a vampire. As a vampire, he single-handedly destroys an entire army, adding thousands to his kill count in one fell swoop. The miniseries Dracula 2020, created by Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, features a Dracula played by Claes Bank with a body count spanning centuries. While the exact number of on-screen deaths is relatively low, around 10, it's heavily implied that this version of Dracula has killed hundreds, if not thousands, over his long undead life. It's worth noting that Dracula's influence extends beyond direct adaptations of Stoker's novel. Countless vampire films and TV shows owe their existence to Dracula, and many vampire characters are essentially Dracula in all but name. If we were to include all of these Dracula-inspired vampires, the body count would be truly staggering. But Dracula's impact isn't limited to the number of fictional lives he's claimed. The character has become a cultural icon, influencing everything from fashion to music to architecture. The image of the sophisticated, charismatic villain with a dark secret has become a staple of popular culture, and much of that can be traced back to Dracula. Moreover, Dracula has become a symbol of our cultural anxieties. In Stoker's original novel, Dracula represented fears of the foreign other, of unbridled sexuality, and of the corruption of innocence. As the character has evolved over the years, he's come to embody different fears, from the AIDS crisis of the 1980s as seen in The Lost Boys to anxieties about immortality and the price of eternal youth. So, what's Dracula's final body count? If we're talking strictly about on-screen deaths in direct adaptations of Dracula, we're looking at a number somewhere in the hundreds. But if we include implied deaths in battle as seen in some origin story adaptations, and the victims of other vampires he's created, that number easily soars into the thousands. And if we consider Dracula's cultural impact, his body count becomes incalculable. How many vampires in fiction owe their existence to Dracula? How many nightmares has he spawned? How many Halloween costumes? In this sense, Dracula's reach extends far beyond the bodies he's drained of blood on screen or on the page. Dracula's enduring popularity also raises interesting questions about our fascination with monsters and death. Why are we so captivated by this bloodthirsty killer? Perhaps it's because Dracula represents something beyond mere death. He offers a dark form of immortality, a life beyond death. In many adaptations, becoming Dracula's victim is portrayed as a seductive, almost transcendent experience, blurring the lines between death and a dark form of rebirth. This complexity is part of what makes Dracula such an enduring figure in our cultural imagination. He's not just a mindless killer, but a tragic figure, a former human cursed with an insatiable hunger. Many adaptations have played with this aspect of his character, presenting Dracula as a reluctant monster or even an anti-hero. As we wrap up this episode of Body Count, it's clear that tallying Dracula's victims is about more than just numbers. Each adaptation of Dracula adds new layers to the character, new victims to his list, and new interpretations of what he represents. From Bela Lugosi's hypnotic stare to Christopher Lee's ferocious physicality to Gary Oldman's tormented romanticism, each version of Dracula brings something new to the table, while still adding to the character's impressive body count. Dracula's legacy in the realm of fictional death is unparalleled. He's not just a killer, but the progenitor of an entire genre of killers. Every vampire that's graced our screens or pages since 1897 owes something to Dracula, making him not just a prolific killer in his own right, but the father of countless other fictional killers. So the next time you see a pale stranger with an odd accent and a charismatic smile, think twice before inviting them in. They might just be the latest incarnation of the Count, looking to add you to his ever-growing list of victims. Thank you for tuning into this premiere episode of Body Count on Quaver TV. Remember, Garlic may keep vampires at bay, but the only thing that can truly protect you from Dracula's deadly charm is a stake through the heart and a healthy dose of sunlight. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to check out our other series. Whether you're interested in real-life crimes, musical genius, on-screen destruction, spiritual mysteries, or fascinating life stories, we've got something for everyone here on Quaver TV. And if you want to support the show and help us keep the body count rising, click on the links in my bio. Every subscriber is another nail in Dracula's coffin, helping us continue to bring you these dark delves into cinema's deadliest characters. Until next time, keep your necks covered and your wooden stakes sharp. This is Quaver TV, reminding you that when it comes to Dracula, the body count is always one bite away from rising.